Welcome to the July 10th, 2025 meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. I am Chairperson David Rockland. The time is 7 o'clock, and we're going to start with some notes about the meeting format. First of all, remote participation in this meeting is available by telephone or through online video conferencing. Please see the meeting agenda for remote participation contact information, including the phone number and the web link information. To speak, if listening by phone, hit *9. If you're video conferencing, use the raise hand button. And now for public comment. It's available during this meeting in person or by telephone during the public comment agenda item and during each public hearing. Finally, here's an overview of the sequence of events for each hearing on the agenda. So if you're presenting today, this is going to be what it's like. First, the Planning Services staff will deliver their report, followed by a report from this month's Commissioner Review Committee. Then the applicant or the representative will provide their presentation and answer any questions from the commissioners. At that point, the hearing will be open for public comment. Following public comment, the commission will make a motion and discuss the application. Finally, the approval from a majority of commissioners present will be required for a certificate of appropriateness to be granted. Okay, so now we'll go on to roll call. Mariana, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Rockland.
Here.
Commissioner Fortner.
Here.
Commissioner Kaplan.
Here.
Commissioner Calderon.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Present.
And noting that Commissioner Smith is absent today, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And normally we go into approving the agenda, but I just need to interject with something here because one of our commissioners, this is their last meeting. This is Kathy Fortner, Commissioner Fortner, and we've got a certificate for her, and I'm going to read it right now from the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission, resolution for Kathy Fortner. Whereas Kathy Fortner has served on the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission for 6 years, and whereas Kathy has used her considerable knowledge of architecture and preservation in the pursuit of historic preservation goals, and whereas Kathy has supported historic preservation in Ann Arbor by supporting local historic districts, and whereas Kathy served as the vice chair of the Historic District Commission and on the awards committee and the Cobblestone Farm Association. And whereas Kathy's knowledge and expertise will be truly missed by the commission, therefore be it resolved that the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission expresses its sincere gratitude and commends Kathy for her dedicated service to historic preservation in the city of Ann Arbor on this 10th day of July, 2025. Thank you so much. We will definitely miss you. Okay, so now we'll go on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda this evening? Hearing or seeing none, the agenda is approved as presented. And we'll move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the Historic District Commission for up to 3 minutes about an item that's not on the agenda today. So you'd approach the podium now, or you'd hit *9 or raise the hand. Are you coming up for public comment?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Tim Rhodes. I live at 448 South First Street in the Old West Side. Thank you for the work that you do. The ADU at 438 South First Street, just 2 doors down from me, looks fantastic. That's a credit to the work that you and staff have done on this. It really is great work. But I'm here today because I'm very concerned about the comprehensive land use plan. There are a lot of forces out there that are advocating for everything up to wiping out historic districts entirely and building whatever the market will bear. The comprehensive land use plan, as drafted right now, has an area that was supposed to become a park, the parking lot, the surface parking lot at First Street in William, was supposed to be part of the tree line trail. Okay, now it's being designated as hub. That's ridiculous. a 10-story, 20-story building on a floodway at First and William is ridiculous. Consider what's happening right now. Consider what happened to Braun Court, destroyed. That's history that we can't get back. Consider what happened with 630 South Ashley, where we had the old cleaners that now is going to be not low-income housing, nothing affordable. That's like 5,800 square feet, $2.7 million worth of new condos being built there that bear no resemblance whatsoever to the single-story businesses that have historically been in the Old West Side. It's not like Jefferson Street Market. It's not like Washtenaw Dairy. It's not like Argus or dozens of other buildings that used to be businesses, single-story businesses in the Old West Side. Folks, I believe you are the last line of defense. Just like in 1972, when the Old West Side Historic District was formed, we have a lot of forces with developers willing to just make a buck. And that's what's going on. Please hold the line against the forces of the developers and politicians that are pro-developer in this city. Thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone else approaching the podium, and I believe we don't have anyone online, so we'll move on from public comment tonight and go into unfinished business. We do have some unfinished business this evening, and it's E1 553 South 7th Street. Mariana, the staff report, whenever you're ready, please.
All right. This is 553 South 7th Street. It is a two-story gable front house that first appears in the 1890 to 91 city directory as the home of John Eating, a carpenter. It was formerly at the corner of northeast corner of Jewett, so it's same location, but this used to be Jewett Avenue. It's now 7th Street and West Madison. In 2010, the owner had applications approved for solar panels, removing the non-original siding and other non-original features of the house, adding a new roof, etc. And over the last 15 years, the owner has undertaken an extremely conscientious restoration of the house, with portions of the inappropriately enclosed porch removed and the porch restored, the artificial siding removed, new custom wood storms installed, and more. This is the front of the house. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to construct a single-story rear addition over a walkout basement accessory dwelling unit. And then, as I mentioned, these are some of the before pictures during the renovations, as the owner has been working to remove the non-original siding and all of the other stuff to make this house look a little bit more like it did in the 1890s. So tonight we are talking about the proposal to add a rear addition that connects to the house, and then also that basement accessory dwelling unit. So this will be on the rear of the house. You can see this is the portion of the house that's proposed to be removed for that addition. This is a non-historic covered porch back here, and then obviously non-historic vinyl windows. And then this is the backyard, again, at the rear of the house, so this is where it would be. This is the garage that's currently there and won't be impacted as part of this proposal. So just some renderings. Again, here's the historic house. And then this is the proposed addition that you can see here, the basement accessory dwelling unit, and then a covered porch with some access back here. And then this is the garage that will be remaining. So looking at the floor plans, again, at the rear of the house, it is inset on both corners of the historic house. The demo foundation plan and the existing foundation plan. So this will connect to parts of the house, so some of the rear of the house will be removed, like I showed earlier. This is the lower level, so you can start to see this ADU space here. This is the proposed first floor plan, so this would be the addition to the house that connects to this dining room and kitchen area. And some elevations. Here's the south side. So again, the historic house up here, and then this proposed addition with the covered porch back here, and then the garage that you can see. Again, lower than the existing historic house. Looking from the rear, so you can see that it is inset. There is a door here on this covered area. There's also a door that leads directly to the ADU here on the side of the house. So there's this entrance that leads to the addition to the house, and then this to the ADU. And you can see that a little bit better here. There'll be a door here and then some windows. And then the front of the house, not anything changing on the front of the house. And because of the inset's not super visible from this front elevation. Here are some more renderings just to get more of an idea how it'll look. Some sections through the house, so you can see this is the addition and this is the ADU below. Then here are some photos from the review committee visit. You can see the existing house, the lovely siding. So in the rear here is where the addition is proposed. This is the portion that's proposed to be removed, again, non-historic back here. This is the general location that it'll be on the back of the house. All right, in terms of the Secretary of the Interior standards, number 2, the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property will be avoided. 5, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. 9, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. And 10, new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that, if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. From the Secretary of the Interior guidelines, for building site, it is not recommended to introduce new construction which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, and texture, or which destroys the historic relationships of the site. For addition, it is recommended construct a new addition so that there is the least possible loss of historic materials and so that character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. Also recommended to locate attached exterior additions at the rear or an inconspicuous side of a historic building and limiting the size and scale in relationship to the historic building. Also recommended to design additions in a manner that makes it clear what is historic and what is new. It's not recommended to design a new addition so that it is out of size and scale in relation to the historic building. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it is appropriate for all additions to locate them on the least character-defining elevation and keep them subordinate in volume to the historic building. Also appropriate to place new additions on non-character-defining or inconspicuous elevations and limit the size and scale. It is recommended to design additions that are compatible in terms of massing, materials, and relationship, and to locate new additions so that they don't damage significant site features. Appropriate to design, I think we read these ones already. I will read. It's appropriate to limit the size and scale of the addition to the historic building so that it does not diminish or visually overpower the building or the district. The addition's footprint should not exceed half of the original building's footprint or half of the original building's total floor area. Not appropriate to design additions that require the removal of significant building elements or construct an addition that significantly changes the proportion of built mass to open space on the site. For historic residential structures, it's appropriate to place new walls in a different plane from the historic structure. Not appropriate to design an addition that overpowers or dramatically alters the original building. All right. I'm going to just read through a few more notes from the staff report, so I'll just go back to some photos. Like I said, addition will be at the rear of the house, and it will be connected to the back, and that non-historic rear porch would be removed. The house has no post-1944 additions currently. This is the historic house. A note that the existing footprint is 714 square feet, and the existing floor area is 1,364 square feet. The addition is listed as 442 square feet, which would constitute a 61.9% footprint increase and a 32.4% floor area increase. In terms of materials, the addition's foundation will be split-face concrete masonry units with multi-light windows on the north and south sides. The first floor is clad in 6-inch vertical tongue and groove wood paneling. Trim will be custom milled wood and composite. All of the windows will be aluminum-clad double-hung, except for fixed transoms. The main floor has those aluminum-clad French doors that lead to that covered porch, and then the ADU door on the side that would lead directly to the ADU would be a wood door that matches the house's west entry door. Roofing will be EPDM, and there will be this, I'll go back to the renderings, this glazed prism skylight, which is a prominent design feature. There is the rear deck, which has guardrails that match the design guidelines. The materials are not specified. Wood or composite would be appropriate. The stairs, landings, treads, and risers that will lead to that covered porch feature composite wood or cedar board, and the railings will be cedar board. I mentioned that the addition is inset from both rear corners of the house. The dimensions are not specified, but it appears to be about 5 feet on the south and 2 feet on the north. For the basement ADU, there will be a CMU retaining wall that you can see right here. Not the best view of it, but there's a CMU retaining wall that extends about 4 feet above grade, and there's a door behind that retaining wall. So the addition does meet some of the Secretary of the Interior guidelines and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, such as placing new walls in a different plane and using compatible materials and a design that makes clear what is historic and what is new. However, at 61.9%, the addition does not meet the design guideline for maximum footprint size, which should not exceed 50% of the house's pre-1945 footprint. So staff does believe that the size of the addition is out of proportion for the site and not subordinate in volume to the historic building. It will also be more visible from the public right-of-way because of its depth. From the Secretary of the Interior standards, staff believes that the size is visually incompatible and out of proportion, which diminishes the historic character of the site. One last note that in the sample motion, the addition's footprint will be shown. It states that the addition's footprint is shown as on drawing sheet 10. This is because there was some confusion with the different drawing sets on the dimensions and sizes. So it says sheet 10 on there because of that, to be clear. And that is all I have for right now.
Thank you very much, Mariana. We'll now move on to the review committee report. I believe Commissioner Kaplan and Calderon were on the committee, so please give us your report.
Sure. As was just stated, I think the only sticking point of all of our issues is the fact that it's out of proportion from 50%. It's over that by a little bit. And what I can say from being on site is that while that requirement specifically relates to the structure that's on the site, what it doesn't reflect that works in favor of this project is that both the overall size of the site is more than large enough to absorb an addition of this size, and also this very smartly, I think, adapts to the grade changes of the site, so that when you're here standing on this property, there's a pretty noticeable slope going from the front to the back, so the grade is continually dropping, and this addition is being put into that declining slope so that its height or its size is largely hidden by that. It manages to bring in a lot of natural light while at the same time staying very low. This would, in a flat piece of land, this would be mostly underground and it wouldn't be so nice of an addition. But I do know that, we do bend on this from time to time, and I would, in my personal contribution, I would advocate for making the exception in this particular case because of those two factors on this site, making this size addition not so obstructive to the rest of the house.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Commissioner Kaplan. I was going to spend my first few minutes talking about the site and how large it is, but also take a moment to talk about the elevation change from the front of the house to the end. Yeah, it's definitely sunk in. I think Commissioner Kaplan did a good job of talking about it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll have the applicant presentation. So the applicant, please come forward, state your name and address. You've got 5 minutes to address the commission here and respond to what you've heard so far.
Okay. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Chris Hewitt. I'm the homeowner at 553 South 7th. My wife and I, Lourdes, own the property. And you can probably see I was bitten by the old house bug. Our 5-year plan turned into 15 after buying a house, and actually work in the historic preservation field now because of this house. So appreciate everything that you guys do. And it did allow us to spend a lot of time, though, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited to be here tonight because this is like 15 years in the making. And we did go through a lot of iterations over the past 15 years. I'm kind of glad we did because we got to live there a while. You know, we ended up falling in love with the backyard, and we ended up shrinking this. You know, you guys haven't seen it, of course, but, you know, over the years, we had a super large design about 12 years ago, which, of course, is out of spec now. That was scaled back to a larger or a smaller 2-story from that larger footprint. But again, you know, as you've seen the work we did to the house, we really wanted to take it back to that original state. You know, I've taken it back to about 90% of what it was back in 1890 and the 1920s porch addition. So we really wanted the addition to kind of complement that and really, you know, do the right thing by the house. So we shrank the 2-story addition we had down to this 1 level because the massing. I don't know if you guys remember the house next to me. There was a 2-story addition on the back. And after looking at that a lot, it's like, no, we didn't want that huge massing on the back. So we ended up shrinking it down to the 1-story you see now, which was still too large. And then we ended up moving the bathroom out of there, putting it into the basement portion under the house to even shrink it further to what you see today, which, yes, it's still over just a little bit, but really the things we're trying to look for now, because we've been here so long, aging in place, we have parents that live out of state that are aging as well, and we know the lady that lived in the house before us had to live in the dining room because the only bathroom in the main house is upstairs. So we're really trying to get, you know, this kind of set up now so we can age in place. You know, if we have to take care of our parents, we have a means to do that in the addition, in the ADU portion. And we love our backyard. We really don't want to mess with the environment a lot too, so we're trying to keep it as small as we can, have the less impact on the yard as we can. So really, we're just asking for enough to have just a decent bedroom, a very small kitchen in that bottom so we can live in it and not just be, you know, like a basement or something like that. So with this type of investment, we want to at least be able to live in it, you know, at our old age, be able to cook and, you know, have a bathroom and things like that. So we're kind of glad we did have that time for it to kind of sink in and really changed a lot over the years. But we do kind of feel that this is kind of the minimum size to be livable. So I appreciate your consideration. And if you guys have any technical questions, or we've got Logan here too, the builder, and you can ask him some questions also.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, are there any questions for Chris? I have one that I'll just toss out.
Sure.
Just a curiosity, it mentions that the design concept is like an orangery. It does look like an orangery. Why is that the design concept here? It's really just a curiosity question while we think of some questions, I think.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we really want something that would allow a lot of natural light in, so we didn't want, you know, a very dark room on the back, and especially in the wintertime, so that really allowed a lot of natural light to come in and bring some of the nature in as well from our nice backyard we love so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Chris? Okay, no questions at the moment. Take a seat. We'll do the public hearing, and then we might call you back up in a moment, but for now, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Great. Okay, so now we'll open up the public hearing for this item. Let's see, the address is 553 South 7th Street. I don't see anyone approaching the podium. Do we have anyone online? Very good. Okay, so no one online, so we can move on from the public hearing, and we'll ask if a commissioner would like to make a motion on the item. Thanks.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 553 South 7th Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to add a 442-square-foot rear addition with the footprint as shown on drawing sheet 10 of the submitted plans. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 5, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for building site and additions, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for all additions and residential additions.
Second.
Very good. That was moved by Commissioner Kaplan and seconded by Commissioner Calderon. Okay, so now we'll discuss the motion. I guess we can, we can discuss the size of it at some point, but are there any, well, okay, let's discuss the size of it first, since that's the obvious discussion. I do want to talk about other things, but it might not be an issue, but the standard says it shall not exceed 50%. This project does. So what I heard from the review committee was that, well, the site is plenty big for this addition. And so it feels like the site can accommodate the addition. And I guess that's one factor, but I also see the other factor is not just the site, it's also the house. Does the house get negatively impacted by an oversized addition? So I think we have to keep in mind that the way the standards are written, it's not just the site, it's the house as well. And so is there any discussion on that comment?
Yeah, in addition to the overall size of the site, the other thing that I was mentioning was the change in grade. It is that second factor which makes this thing drop in relation to the roof lines of the house. So I don't know how to technically describe the feeling you get when you're there, but there is not a sense that this room in its current configuration would compete with the main house on the site.
That seems counterintuitive to me, because I feel like if the site is dropping, then the actual thing's going to get bigger, not smaller. So you would feel...
More at the bottom of it.
If you were standing in the
like,
backyard,
yeah.
I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is that it from the front, if you think of the grade as elevating up to 7th Street as opposed to declining down away from 7th Street, what it serves to do is it takes the original historic house and it hoists it up. Mm-hmm. So it's prominent to pedestrians and people in the public who would walk by this house. But yes, it still drops down enough in the back so that if you're in this room and you're the owner of the house on your property, you still manage to get air and light while you're in it.
Right, and the main view is obviously from that sidewalk on 7th
Correct.
Street. So I see what you're saying, okay. Commissioner Ross, any comments?
Yeah, I guess I feel like all the times when I've been on this commission and we've made kind of like, let's make a concession for this one, like going over 50% for an addition. I feel like whenever we've gone back, or I've gone back, I've just been like, it's, yeah. I think it's too big, and I question, like you were saying, Commissioner Rockland, that with the drop in grade, you'll just see more of the kind of lower kind of basement level. I do appreciate, I think the design is really cool. And I appreciate the fact that it's not bumping up to the second story. So it's not like that kind of looming kind of addition. But I feel like we have that 50% number for a reason. Yeah.
Noted, thank you.
Yeah, I
Commissioner?
agree. I think it's a great, the use of the way they fit the ADU into the lot, I think is great. That's wonderful design, but it's too big.
Can you elaborate more on too big, like what?
Well, I think, as Commissioner Ross was saying, the 50% is there for a reason. And so I think it's out of scale with the house.
Okay. My comment on that is, well, I agree, and we have gone over that number, and for me, when I vote to approve something that's over that number, it's typically because the designer has done something to somehow make it better, make it less obtrusive or something by creating like we call it a hyphen, like create something that like separates it from the house, and then the addition happens, or something like that, where they're using some of the square footage to improve the compatibility of the design. In this case, I don't see that. I see that the addition, actually, it's kind of hard to tell, but like where it meets the house, is it, yeah, it's the same width all the way back. It does feel like is it the window? Can we see an elevation? Side elevation? Yeah, okay, so like there is, I think maybe the designer is doing something there where they have that kind of smaller, maybe that's an attempt to kind of separate out and kind of get you from the historic to the new. But to me, it's not helping with the issue that it's especially like in this view and also the other side elevation, it feels like almost just as big, like when you add the porch, and I know those things are not included in the 50%, but it's all included when you talk about like, is this a compatible addition? And it just feels really long, and I think that it is, well, it's over the 50%. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was just, is this a compatible addition? Like, even if it was smaller, like, do we think that this addition is compatible? I think that, I agree with the staff report that it's very differentiated, like it really looks different than the house, and that's really important, but also important in the standards is some sort of balance where you're differentiating, but then you're also making it compatible in some way. And I'll read some of the standards here, like for all additions appropriate, designing the addition so it is compatible in terms of massing, materials, relationship of solids to voids, and proportion of openings. So if that is appropriate, it's really hard to argue that this addition follows that. You don't have to, it's not like you have to follow every single one, but just thinking of, is this appropriate? It's not appropriate according to that. And then, obviously, there's the one that we've been talking about, which is limiting the size and scale of the addition in relationship to the historic building so that it does not diminish or visually overpower the building or the district. So I think we're all drawn to this really kind of interesting and beautiful addition, but that's also, to me, when I read that standard, you don't want it to diminish or visually overpower the building. So when you're walking down the street, when I see this, I'd be like, oh my gosh, look at that thing in the back there. It's amazing. And it's, to me, that is, I am not feeling like I can approve this project because I just feel like that will be the experience. And to me, that's what's saying that is not it's not appropriate in the standards for an addition to do that. I am an architect, and I feel like I want there to be really interesting designs in the historic district. So that is always like a real challenge for me. Is like, can we find a way to actually do interesting, cool designs, but also somehow meet these standards? Okay. That took a while for me to get my comments out, but now that that's done, does anyone else have anything to add, or did I sort of I think I summarized maybe two of the commissioner's feelings there. Hopefully, okay, I didn't contradict that, but then it sounds like there's two other commissioners that sound like they're feeling different. Do you want to restate anything, or do you feel like you've stated what you want to state and we can
I'll
move
throw
on?
a couple other things out,
Yeah.
just for the sake of, adding to the conversation. If I were to imagine this grade holding steady from 7th, if I draw an imaginary line, like let's just say through the basement windows so that it covered this up. If this were an addition just of the orangery, but not the ADU underneath it, it wouldn't overpower the house. Is that right? It's the fact that because the ground has dropped and the space where the footing and the walls that would support this at the grade of the first floor of the house is also being used. It's able to be used because of the grade drop, but it makes it feel bigger back there. To notice that, you have to be the resident or a trespasser. It isn't an impact from someone who's walking from the front of the house. But to me, it almost feels like what's making it stick out or visually seem large is precisely this grade drop, because you're getting to expose those walls. I mean, I suppose you could sink the whole thing down and have it be one story at basement level, but if you try to keep it, for ease of access, keeping it on the first floor.
To me, it's not the volume. I mean, I think you're talking about volume. It's not that. It's the footprint. The footprint of the addition is not supposed to be, according to the standards, more than 50% of
Right,
the
but
footprint.
that's volume, right?
No.
Sure, yeah.
Footprint.
I mean, it's the volume of 2 floors of that's making it.
That's floor
driving it
area.
over.
And
Right.
that would only, if there was a second floor, then that would be an issue, but
Right.
there's
Okay.
not a second floor, which, is helping this project for sure, but, okay. I guess I take your comment about
Right.
the basement. Anything else to add?
No, I mean, I definitely appreciate your comment about the overpowering of the design. I definitely share a lot of your sentiments too about wanting to have these amazing designs within a cyber community, but also it's balancing act of does it fit the guidelines? Yeah, I definitely took a step back and thought more about it. Like your comment about walking down 7th Street and seeing this building and being so awed by the behind. You're not really focused on what's in front of you, the historic part of the building. But yeah, it's more a
Okay.
statement than but I don't know.
Yeah.
Comment.
Subordinate.
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, which is definitely that's a compliment to the architect,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think the design is really cool, but, yeah.
Right, we're not voting on the design, it's not a design board, it's,
Exactly.
does it match, does it
Yes.
follow the standards? And that's our role here, so.
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to go to a vote unless there's another comment. Okay, let's vote on this, all those in favor? No, you can make a comment, sure, yeah. Very quick though, please.
Yeah, just real
Yeah.
quick, to Mr. Kaplan's comments, the way, for the elevation, the way it's tucked in, what you don't see there is the garage that comes up to about halfway of the addition there. So with the front of the house sitting up so high from the street, kind of like our solar panels, you really don't see it. So we did take that into consideration. Other alternatives with like an ADU in the back, because the lot drops off, would have this huge tower, right, to get the 2 stories, which really would look out of place. But we have a landmark tree, we have the 30-foot setback, so we have constraints there as well. And on the other side, there's a really huge barn, and the house that sits beside it too, it's going uphill, so it's higher. So really, unless you're looking, or like I said, down in the driveway, even from Madison, you really don't see it because we kept it at that one level. And for the ADU, again, the size, we did shrink that too. It is minimal to be livable. So, for example, like the bedroom isn't even like a big enough for a queen size bed. Like the bedroom is so small now, you can only fit like a twin bed in there. So for 2 people to try to age in place, very tiny kitchenette. So we did try to move that bathroom in under the house to even shrink it to that level. So really, like, any smaller than even that footprint at the 61 is, kind of not livable no matter what the design is, right? So
Okay.
we did try to help that.
I
Thank you.
appreciate those comments. Thank you, Chris. That was helpful, but I don't know if there was any new information, but is there any reaction to that? No, okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. No. The motion does not carry. Your application has been denied. So I think the next step would be to contact the city and work with the city on a new application. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Okay, so we'll now move on to, we've got new business. There are 3 hearings, and we'll start with hearing F1, and that's actually been postponed, so we'll have like a slightly different process for that. It's 224 Murray Street is F1, and since it's been postponed, we won't actually have the hearing, but we do have to hold a public hearing for it, so it was announced. So we'll just open the public hearing for that. I don't see anyone approaching the podium. We have no one online. So we will close the public hearing and move on from F1. And the next one is F2, 706 West Liberty Street. Mariana, the staff report whenever you're ready. I didn't have my microphone.
All right, we are here at 706 West Liberty. It's an 1867 John Christian Burkhardt house that has a very symmetrical front facade with a center entry and vertically aligned 4/4 windows. The porch is a reproduction from the late 1980s when the missing porch was designed in part based on ghosting found under the artificial siding. House has a hip roof and dentils and a decorative wall trim beneath the eaves. Sanborn fire insurance maps show that a 1-story addition was constructed at the rear of the 2-story house during the period of significance. In 1994, a new 2-story rear addition was built that enveloped the majority of the earlier 1-story addition. So that might make a little bit more sense once we look at the photos and the plans. The site is located on the north side of West Liberty, west of 5th Street and east of Mulholland. And the applicant seeks HDC approval to remove the post-1945 2-story addition at the rear of the house and then construct a new 2-story rear addition plus a 1-story rear addition and a rear deck. All right, this is the very symmetrical front facade of the house. Here we have the view from Liberty Street. You can see the existing 2-story addition back here. Again, that's post-1945. And then this is the proposal. So a new 2-story addition and then a 1-story area and a porch behind it. So you can see here on the plan, so this is the existing, this is the hip roof of the historic house. This is the roof of the current 2-story addition, 1994. And then this is the proposed, so again, in that same space, and then plus a little bit extra on the back. Here are some plans, so lower level existing on the right, and then proposed on the left. You can see that expansion into the rear. And here you can see, again, first floor proposed, and it is inset on both corners. You can see the existing, the 1994 2-story addition did not inset on this east corner, so the new proposed addition will restore that northeast back corner, and then it'll keep that same kind of area that was on the northwest corner. So you can kind of see this area here is about where that pre-1945 addition, rear addition was. And then again, with the 1994, it kind of just encompassed everything that was back there. So this is included, since it's shown on the Sanborn maps, in the pre-1945 floor area, just about this area here. And here is the upper level, so that's that two-story back addition, just about the same footprint as the existing rear addition, but then again on the first floor it extends a little bit farther back. Here you can have some, we can see some elevations, nothing changing on the front. Here's the back, you can see that inset, you can see the current two-story addition. So it really just fills the same kind of space and then adds this one story and then this deck back here. Here's some side elevations, so you can see that it does extend farther back into the rear yard. And some renderings. Here's the existing, that addition back there. Some more renderings you can see from the side, from the driveway. And then this is the existing, there is a deck back here, so here's this new deck, here's that one story, and here's the two story that is essentially in the same part, in the same place. And then just from the back of the house. Some material details that we'll get into when I read some more comments. Then you can kind of see here, this is that earlier rear one-story addition that was there before the 1944 that we see today. All right, here's some photos from the review committee. So front of the house. This is from across Liberty Street. Here's the side. So here's that space that it'll take up. Go back into the rear. Existing back of the house with that deck. And then from the driveway. And this is where it's inset again, so currently you can see that historic corner of the house, and they're going to restore the historic corner, the opposite side. And that driveway where things are going to be. All right, I already read the Secretary of the Interior Standards 2, 5, 9, and 10, so I'll leave those for now. For the guidelines for building site, it is not recommended to introduce new construction onto the building site, which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, and texture. It is recommended to construct a new addition so that there is the least possible loss of historic materials and so that character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. Also recommended to locate exterior additions on the rear or an inconspicuous side of the historic building, and recommended to design additions in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. It's recommended to place additions such as balconies and greenhouses on non-character defining elevations, and when designing additional stories, they are set back from the wall plane and as inconspicuous as possible when viewed from the street. Not recommended to attach additions so that character-defining features of the house are destroyed, of the historic building, and not recommended to design an addition that is out of scale and size in relationship to the historic building. Not recommended to design and construct new additions that result in the loss of historic character, or constructing additional stories so that the historic appearance of the building is radically changed. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it is appropriate to locate additions on the least character-defining elevation, on inconspicuous elevation, and to limit the size and scale in relationship to the historic property. Appropriate to design additions that are compatible in terms of massing, materials, relationships of solids to voids, and proportions of openings, and to limit the size and scale of the addition in relationship to the historic building. Not appropriate to design a new addition that requires the removal of significant building elements or site features, or to design an addition to appear older or the same age as the original building. Not appropriate to design an addition that overpowers the original building, or to construct an addition that significantly changes the proportion of built mass to open space on the individual site. For historic residential structures, it is again appropriate to place new walls in a different plane from the historic structure. All right, that is all that. And then I just have a few more comments, so go back to some nice photos. All right. So we talked about that existing 1994 rear addition that enclosed the pre-1945 one-story addition. There are the two parts here, so that two-story, the one-story, and then the deck behind it. The two-story addition is inset on both sides of the historic house. The two-story portion has a hipped roof that ties into the existing historic roof. The height is unspecified on the drawings, but the ridge does appear to be lower than the original roof line. That one-story portion will also have a hip roof that will integrate into the two-story portion. Roofing material isn't indicated on the submitted drawings, but the use of the hipped roof is compatible with the historic house. The addition's clad in smooth fiber cement lap siding. The exposure is shown to be 5 inches on the drawings. The submitted plans also show that the trim will be AZEK throughout, and the second-story frieze and dental molding will replicate the detailing on the historic house, and staff has recommended that this design be changed to be compatible with, but not exactly match the historic frieze and molding. Proposed windows will be clad wood with simulated divided lights and spacers. There's a mix of casements and double hungs. Window trim on the addition will be AZEK trim. And the drawings show that the windows will be different sizes than the historic windows to differentiate. There will be 2 rear door openings on the additions, one that leads from that back one-story part to the new deck, and then the other that leads from the 2-story portion to the backyard, which is recessed in an entrance vestibule. Doors will be wood, either half or 3/4 light. Per the submitted drawing set, the historic footprint of the house is 932 square feet, including that 220 square foot addition that was constructed during the period of significance. So the new footprint will be 1359 square feet, which is a 45% increase, and the proposed floor area increase will be exactly 50%. Just a few notes about the rear deck. There will be composite decking and wood railings and balusters. The deck will be 317 square feet. The height of the porch and the railings is not specified on the drawings, but looks fine. There's also some mechanical units that are included as part of this application. That's generally a staff approval, but they're included here because why not? And the location is appropriate. So to summarize, the design in general, the design for the proposed addition is compatible with the historic house. There will be minimal impact on the historic structure because the 2-story addition will fill that space of the 1994 addition that's there. The rear of the house is an appropriate location. The additions will be inset, and the peak of the new roof will be lower than the historic ridge. The lot is wide, so parts of the proposed work will likely be visible from the right-of-way because of that massing as well. But by insetting the proposed additions, the project will also restore that northeast corner of the house. I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Okay, now we'll get the review committee report, please.
Sure. Yeah, this lot, it's one of my favorite lots. It's one of those classic Ann Arbor ones where you really don't realize how large it is until you go back there and just keeps on going. There's a slight, there's a large change in grade at the end of the property, but very, very little from the front of the house to the back of the proposed. It is definitely well hidden. I do appreciate that they are bringing back the indentation from the original mass. I really don't have too much to add. I found it pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that covers it. There wasn't much controversial here.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so now we'll have the applicant presentation. Will the applicant please step forward? State your name and address for the record. You've got 5 minutes to speak. You can respond to what you've heard so far, or just give your own presentation.
Okay, my name is Jimmy Bevilacqua. I worked with Rockman Design Build on this and helping design the homeowners design the project. I'd say really, I mean, we worked with Jill and the city to come up with what we felt was appropriate, and having them say there's things that aren't controversial on this it's actually comforting because, we know that it's a pretty big addition, but it's a really big lot, and we stayed within the guidelines. One of the things that we were, from a design perspective and compatibility, if you notice the original house, the fenestration pattern where the first floor windows line up with the second floor windows, and that's something that we worked to try and bring back, at least on the sides where the full side comes down. And it really, this was about making the space more usable, and part of it is also the original second floor addition that was put on did not match the floor height upstairs, so that there's, in a bedroom where, a child-sized bedroom, there's a two-stair drop in the middle of the bedroom. And so by doing kind of the addition, and if you notice, the second floor is almost where the previous addition was done. So we're not really adding too much to the massing upstairs. But what we are doing is we're making it one floor level, which whether it's aging in place or it's just safety issues where you don't have two stairs in a bedroom where kids can kind of get up and not trip over something. We just worked really hard, I think, on trying to come up with something that we felt was respectful for the site, but also for what I think is a great house, and a pretty prominent house on Liberty Street. So.
Thank you very much. We might have some questions for you. The staff report mentioned something about the dentals mimicking the exact design on the historic house. So what, are you proposing anything there?
So kind of our original proposal was to call out that we were changing material, and that we would use the ASIC to mill product where we could mill the dental molding to match, just because it's a nice design feature. If it is kind of a sticking point, I mean, we certainly could change the width of the dental to say that it would be 50% larger, and that would differentiate it, but keeping the height of course as we go around. But that would be something that we would certainly consider. It's not something that I think we're going to die on any hill for. So.
Okay.
If it's recommended.
Very good. Any questions for Jimmy?
I have a question.
Okay.
Looks like the chimney is going to go away. What's
Yes.
going on there?
There's a chimney right now that just vents a water heater that will no longer vent the water heater. It's something that I talked to Jill about before even making that proposal. Originally we had design and we were going to try and keep it and get rid of the space inside, because right now it just bumps into the interior, but there's no fireplace or anything. It's just kind of a bump into two rooms. So we would have to support it, but because it doesn't break the plane of the wall and it just comes up the roof, and it wasn't, in Jill's words, it didn't have any kind of significant detailing, so then we chose to remove it. And actually, if you see the photos of one of the other, kind of the older edition, also took out an interior chimney as well.
Very good. A question?
So I have a question about the differentiation other than the dentals, of the siding. All going to match?
So we were going to change material, is what we're going to do. So it's all going to go to a composite material.
All?
Just
The
the
addition. Sorry, the addition. The addition will be a composite fiber cement siding and an AZEC trim package.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay, we might bring you back up in a sec, but for now, thank you. We'll do the public hearing for 706 West Liberty Street. Okay, no one coming up to the podium. We don't have anyone online, so no one for public hearing today for this item, and so we will close it. And I would ask if there's a commissioner who would like to make a motion on this item.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 706 West Liberty Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to demolish the existing two-story rear addition and deck construct a new two-story rear addition, plus a one-story rear addition and a rear deck, and install mechanical units as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 5, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for building site and additions, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, in particular the guidelines for all additions and additions to historic residential structures.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. That was moved by Commissioner Fortner and seconded by Commissioner Ross. So now we'll have some discussion on the motion. I feel like, there's a lot of information in this packet. The drawings, there's a lot of drawings as well. It's very clear about what the application is proposing. I think that the main question I had when I saw this, after noting that the size was appropriate, was it's very compatible, extremely compatible. It looks, and the renderings, it looks like it's like one house, right? Okay, so you have to, the renderings, you're not getting the differences between cedar and hardy, right? So, but it really is compatible. So that's great because the standards say that it should be compatible. And then also, obviously, the standards say it needs to be differentiated. So that was just, the question that came to mind, is it differentiated enough to follow the standards? And what I see is that the windows are, like particularly the side elevation, I think maybe is the most important thing to look at. Like the window sizes, and at least the first two are, okay, so the sizes are different, similar but different, and they're casements instead of double hung. There's also double hung, but it's a mix. I guess and so he's matching the sum of the, I guess there's 4/4s, and then there are some 4/4s, but it's going to be simulated divided light. So I suppose if you go take a look, it's just right on the edge. And then obviously the dental detail is like the siding. It's matching, but with a different material, which I feel, and the trim is the same way. So I think it's teetering right on the edge of differentiation, but we have allowed material to be the differentiator. So I feel like it's teetering on the edge there, but it is kind of making it because it's using different materials. But it is on the edge. So what do you think?
We need to, as proposed, is with matching trim, the
What do you mean?
underneath trim. So I think we need to amend the motion so that it indicates that matching trim would not be.
But isn't it matching trim with AZAC instead of wood, though? With PVC instead of...
2.5, from the street level.
Right. Yeah. You won't notice from the street at all. I mean, you can't really see hardy from the street.
It won't be differentiated from, for human eyes.
Right,
Well,
but
maybe the
is
one
that
right
what...
there you could, but, that trim is going to,
It's going to look...
it's going to look exactly
Yeah.
the same.
Okay, noted. Any comments on that?
If we're already differentiating by indenting the building, do we still need to also differentiate with the size of the trim?
Well, it's one whole package, basically, but there's a lot of existing historic homes that have a historic addition or even just a historic back part of the house that's indented. So that doesn't necessarily mean modern addition,
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you've done such a good job making it compatible. It's like, too good. You can't tell the...
Could they do a different just exposure on the siding?
Well, they could do whatever they want, of course. It's just we've approved projects that are matching the siding exposure, but if the historic house is cedar, and this is gonna, because like the cedar has like a good, you know, you can see like the shadow line in the cedar, and the hardy
Yes,
has like a
thinner,
less,
yes.
yeah. So the trained eye can see the difference. I don't think the trained eye can necessarily see the difference between AZAC Dental's, you know, 2 stories up, but
Yeah.
I think at that point, you just know it's an addition because the windows, you know, like I said, it's all the other things.
I mean, like the window casing, like trim will be flatter. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
if I was looking at it as an architectural historian, I could tell.
Well, I think that is the level of standard that we ask. yeah.
Right, right. Like if I was looking at this house, trying to figure out what's going on, like I would be able to tell the difference between hardy and AZAC trim and actual like cedar.
Not the
So I have
dental's
no
2.5 stories up.
Well, yeah, okay, the dental too. I'd
But
probably
you
know
don't
what's
seem
going on
to
now,
be worried
but-
about those, so that's good. Mariana, can you just comment on that standard? Like, on the standard of differentiation, like, do you feel it's for any old somebody walking by on the street, on the sidewalk, or is it for like an expert like Commissioner Ross looking at it? Do you have a feeling for it, or is it just how we interpret it?
I think generally it's for the trained eye is what we say.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that.
And I guess too, I mean, when you're looking at the original portion of the house and the manner in which the windows at the second story kind of project into, what's the kind of frieze board area? I mean, versus the addition, which will not have that feature, like, I feel like I would be able to say that.
Yeah, is there any difference in foundation material between the historic and addition? That might be a question for the architect here. Can you please approach the podium? Foundation material, the new and the historic, what do we got?
Yeah, so for parts of the historic, there's a stone foundation,
Okay.
and then there's a portion of it that's CMU, but that's the portion that we would be taking out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in terms of, we would put a stucco
Yep.
to the exterior, so
Okay,
that's
so
what it would be.
the addition's gonna have a parge coat,
It'll have
plaster?
a parge coat. There's a parge coat on some of the historic as well, though.
Okay, so it's not like a
it's-
clean
It's not a...
dividing line necessarily in this instance, okay?
No, but I mean, even in the baseboard trim, like at the rim joist, you know, and we're going to use a water table that's going to be different. It's going to have
Yeah.
exact. So, like the whole package will be differentiated, but it's going to be subtle.
Yes.
is the point.
Noted. Thank you for that extra information, Jimmy. Okay. So let's see. We talked about differentiated versus not. Any issues with removing the chimney? Does anyone want to comment on that? We don't like to see a chimney go, but no comments. The size of it is right at the edge, but meets the standards. Any comments on size? No. Okay. It looks like it's asphalt shingle roof, but it didn't say. Is that
It doesn't say specifically, but yeah, it looks like.
Okay. Okay, and then the porch has wood railings. Are there any other aspects of this addition to discuss? I think we talked through it all. Okay, if there's nothing else, no other comments, I think that's because we're ready to vote, so let's do that now. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. You must receive all required permits from the city before beginning your project, and the work in the permits must match what was approved at the Historic District Commission today. Thank you very much. Okay. We will now move on. We've got one more hearing tonight. It's F3. It's also on Liberty Street, but it's on East Liberty. And it's 120 East Liberty Street, so we'll get the staff report, and it looks like you're ready to go right now.
All right.
Thanks, Mariana.
Yeah. Okay, bear with me. We'll have a little bit of background on this
Yeah,
lovely
good.
historic building. So 120 East Liberty Street, a 3-story brick commercial vernacular building that was built in 1906 and is commonly known as the Pretzel Bell Building. In 1934, the Pretzel Bell Tavern and Restaurant moved in and became an Ann Arbor institution for more than 50 years until 1985. And a note that the current Pretzel Bell Restaurant on South Main Street borrowed the name but has no apparent relation to the original tavern. Also, the magazine Automobile was located upstairs for its lifespan, which was 1985 to 2020. The building features fixed double-pane windows, stone lintels and windowsills, and a decorative brick cornice with corbelling. Sometime between 1981 and 1992, it appears that the first floor of the north front elevation was modified, with the window openings at 120 and 122 East Liberty decreasing in size. It looks like the sills were raised and the openings were infilled with brick. 3 windows were added and a doorway was relocated in the first floor of the east side elevation during this time period. In 2014, a new sign and awnings were approved by the HDC, and in 2013, the HDC issued a certificate of appropriateness for replacement windows, downlighting, and other work for the opening of Avalon Restaurant. In 2012, the owner also received a certificate of appropriateness to add 3 additional ground floor windows on South 4th Avenue and modify the 3 windows on the east end of East Liberty elevation. And you can see that the sign and the awnings were recently refaced for this new restaurant. I think we know that this is the corner of East Liberty Street and South 4th Avenue, and the applicant seeks HDC approval to install AZEC panels with a glass and tile mosaic applied to them at the northeast corner of the building. The panels will be mounted to metal channels attached to the building through mortar joints. So here we have the Liberty Street elevation, and this is the corner where the mosaic is proposed to go. So it's not going to go past the windows on either side. The existing windows here won't impact the windows. And here is a rendering of what it would look like. It's a glass and ceramic tile. And again, it's on these AZEC panels that will then be mounted through the mortar joints. Here are some details. Other details. And you can see here a layout of where the fasteners will be. So not through the brick, which staff does believe is the original brick. The detail of the wall. See that brick there, the windows. And then just some photos from the review committee. This is the site, that corner again, and then from a little bit farther back, and a little bit farther back. All right, we have read the Secretary of the Interior Standards 2 and 10. A few of the guidelines for building site is recommended to design new exterior additions to historic buildings or adjacent new construction which is compatible with the historic character of the site and which preserves the historic relationship between a building or buildings, landscape features, and open space. Not recommended to introduce new construction which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, and texture. For masonry, it is recommended to identify, retain, and preserve masonry features that are important in defining the overall historic character of the building. And it's not recommended to remove or radically change masonry features which are important to defining that overall historic character. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for signs, it is appropriate to attach signage through masonry joints and not units. Or through materials that can be easily repaired, such as wood. All right, that is all for the guidelines. Just a couple more notes here. Again, this is a 2-panel glass and mosaic tile that will be on the corner of the building. Let me go back to that corner. And it will be attached through the joints, won't have an impact on the brick. As I said earlier, the ground floor of the building has been changed with the window sizes and things like that, but staff does believe that these bricks are original at this corner. The panels are heavy. The north panel is 162 pounds and the east panel is 258 pounds. Both an expert mason and a structural engineer have been consulted on the project, and so the mural will be easily removable and leave the integrity of the building unimpaired. We talked about the attachments and how they will be through the mortar joints, and staff finds that to be complete and appreciates the attention to detail. So overall, the proposed material is generally compatible in exterior design, massing, and arrangement, texture, and relationship to the site and the surrounding areas, and staff believes it does meet the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll get the review committee report on this project. Please.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we're visualizing it, but it's only attached to the building through the masonry joints, and it fits the geometry of the building just fine. I didn't see any issue with it.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Kaplan. It's been proposed as a beautiful piece of public art in a streetscape full of other beautiful public art, and contextually for that reason, I think it's adequate.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we'll get the applicant presentation. So would the applicant please step forward, state your name and address for the record. You've got 5 minutes to speak. You can present something. You can respond to what you just heard, or you don't have to have any comments if you don't want. So.
Okay, my name is Hannah Kirkpatrick. I'm the Art and Public Director at the Ann Arbor Arts Center. I'm the project manager here. And my address for the Art Center or for this?
Either
building?
one is fine, I think.
117 West Liberty Street.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, I'll just repeat the comment that the mosaic tile has been designed to fit with the windowscape. It's not overly large, and it's taking cues from the architecture. The hat channels are mounted into the mortar joints, and the AZEK panel is mounted into the hat channels.
And do you happen to know how the mosaics are attached to the panel?
It's through glue, like an
They use glue,
adhesive
yeah.
and grout.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Was that your comment? I think I interrupted you maybe.
I'm happy to answer more questions.
Very good. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have one. When I'm trying to visualize how this attaches to the building, those hat channels, are they relatively flush to the brick, or do they stand proud of the brick? The thing I'm really trying to get at is AZEK is inherently somewhat flexible, and if it was floating but then not supported in the middle, I would worry that someone leaning on it or pushing on it would flex it and then deteriorate the art that's on top of the AZEK board.
So the hat channels are 1 inch. They'll be mounted directly onto the brick, and they're also to keep it level for the actual, if there's any differences in the brick. Then if you go back to the elevation drawing, I don't have it memorized, but I think oh gosh, I can't see that. But it's 1 foot.
5 3/4.
Yeah, inches. So they're like.
On center.
On center,
Yeah.
yeah.
Got it.
And the AZEK material is mounted directly to that, and that's 1 inch thick to buff up some of that flexibility.
Okay, got it.
Okay, any other questions?
Just about because it's not protected at the top from the awnings, don't come to the corner. So are these channels allow for water to get back there and keep, and air to get back there to dry it out? I'm concerned about the moisture retention against the brick. So you take it back as the brick deteriorated because moisture's been trapped in there.
I think the hat channel is like the only thing touching the brick, and then there's weep holes at the bottom to allow moisture out.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Great, thank you, Hannah, appreciate it. All right. Okay, now we'll go on to public hearing. We'll open the public hearing for 120 East Liberty Street. I don't see anyone approaching the podium here because only our applicant is left in the building with us. But maybe there's someone online? No. Okay, very good. So that's the public hearing. It's now closed for 120 East Liberty Street. Would a commissioner like to make a motion on this item?
I can do it.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to find it there.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 120 East Liberty Street, a contributing property in the Main Street Historic District, to install AZEC panels with a glass and tile mosaic applied to them at the northeast corner of the building through mortar joints as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2 and 10, and the guidelines for building sites and masonry, and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines or signs.
You want a second?
Second.
Great. That was moved by Commissioner Ross and seconded by Commissioner Kaplan. So now we'll have some discussion. I did see that, like the structural engineer that provided the stamp is Steve Rudner, and so I know that he does have a lot of experience with, well, he has a lot of experience in general, specifically with historic buildings. He's got a lot of experience, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is bulletproof as well as, everything that you had mentioned, Commissioner Kaplan. So that gives me a lot of confidence. And just in fact, to have drawings like this for a sign or a mural is pretty incredible. And I looked through them, and they're very, very detailed, and I'm excited to see this. I will be looking at the structure as well as the art equally. With that, any comments here other than that? Seems very straightforward. I'm not seeing any comments, so we'll just go right to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no. The motion carried. Your application's been approved. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So now we will move on to new business. We don't have any design guidelines this month to review, so I know we're all very sad about that. But we do have a historic marker application. So are you going to review that for us? Thank you, Mariana.
And I'll just put up a photo of 1313 Henry Street. We've received a historic marker application. This is not in a historic district, but the commission does will consider applications for historic property plaques as long as they meet the criteria, and those 4 criteria are included in the staff memo. But I'll just give a quick overview that staff believes this is a significant historic building and meets the 4 criteria for a historic plaque. The building dates to 1926 and is therefore more than 50 years old, has been maintained largely in its original condition. The building has a nominal amount of non-historic features, like the front stair guardrail and a glass block and a basement window. These features could be easily removable and reversible. And then finally, the principal facades of this building are architecturally significant and have maintained features that have been lost or covered over on many other buildings of this era. The house has a red brick front porch and a front gable above it, mostly original windows, front and rear shed dormers, and a red brick chimney. The front-facing gable over the porch is the home's most distinctive feature, with faux half timbering and a jerkin head, which is a term that I've learned, or clipped gable roof. So that's staff's report. The applicant included as part of the application also, a history of the building, changes that have happened, people that have lived there, and that is all included in the packet.
So I think this might be, or I just don't recall if I've seen a historic marker outside of the historic district. So, I mean, obviously, anything can, we don't have purview of changes to this building. So what happens if there's changes? It's just that there can be changes, basically, right?
Yes,
And
that's
just
it.
that, there's no,
That's a good
like, we don't get
question.
to take the marker back, right?
Yeah, at this point in
Obviously
time,
not.
it meets the criteria.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not in a district, so I don't know that that will forever be the case, you're right.
Interesting, okay. That was just a question. Okay, so now we could have some discussion on this, or if everyone is just really happy, then we could have a motion. Is that what we do right now?
Yeah, just a motion to
Yeah.
approve that.
Does anyone want to just say something like, I move to approve this application, or something like that?
I move to approve this application.
Right, and hearing no objections.
Second.
And seconded, yes, that's important, thank you. Hearing and seeing no objections, I don't think we have to vote, right? We all,
I think you should.
let's vote. All those in
Yes.
favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no.
right.
Okay, there we go, motion's been approved. That's really nice when people want to do that, I think. Okay, so that's the new business for the day. Okay, now we've got approval of minutes. We had the June meeting minutes. So, again, we need to approve those. So, are there any changes or anything like that? Okay. So hearing and seeing no objections, the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you, as always, to the city staff. It's Courtney Manor, who's working on the agenda as well as the minutes, so we really appreciate that work. Thank you. Are there any reports from commissioners this evening? I noticed the other day walking around the Old West Side, and I saw an article about it, that there are historical markers for the Allen Creek, the buried Allen Creek on the west side. When you're walking along, there'll be a big sticker on the sidewalk that just lets you know that this is where the creek used to be. It's kind of cool. I mean, you can tell, like, from geography that, like, everything's like, yeah, it's a low point, and you can kind of picture it, and it goes right under people's homes and across blocks, and it's buried. But it used to be there, and I'm sure people have seen photos of it or anything, but now there's like stickers on the sidewalk, which is, I don't know, kind of cool. Any other reports from commissioners? No? Okay. Then let's move on to assignments. We've got the August meeting. It's a 5 p.m. review committee on August 11th. And it's going to be a Thursday, August 14th meeting. So everyone, check your calendar, and
I'm going to be absent.
you'll be absent from August.
I'll be absent too that week.
You guys are our summer review committee, though.
I know. I hate to miss one.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and I forgot if Commissioner Smith said he was going to be back or not in August. I think he did actually say, I'll see you guys in August, is my recollection. But anyway,
remember
that's
that.
just something to think about. Oh, and then we will not have Commissioner Fortner, so we need
We need
1,
four,
2, 3.
All right.
But there won't be a fourth.
There won't be a fourth.
So right away, we know that we don't need a review committee for August. Isn't that interesting? That does not happen very often, but at the meeting, you actually know that next month is not going to work. And we're not going to get a new commissioner in time?
I don't believe we can in 4 weeks.
Come on.
We're gonna try our best to go as quick as possible, but.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I don't know, we'll see, I'll keep you posted if it happens in 4 weeks.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, well, let's, are you okay moving on without names for you committee, given that it seems like we won't have the meeting, or do you?
Yeah, I think for now, we'll have to regroup and see if
Do it over
if
email.
the meeting will be canceled.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, we'll,
Sorry, I was just gonna, I'll be in town for the meeting, but like out of the country for the actual.
The Monday.
The day,
So
yeah.
you're not available
Yeah.
either? Okay.
so it would have to be you and Chip, if anything.
Right, okay, so.
We'll see, yeah.
Yep, that's fine, just so you know that you could ask Chip and I if we could do it. Okay, well, that was interesting. Mariana, are there any reports from staff?
Nope.
Very good. Concerns of commissioners. Are there any concerns that commissioners would like to express specific to your job as a commissioner? No, okay. Great, then in that case, we will adjourn the July 10th, 2025 Historic District Commission meeting at 8:31 PM. Thank you all.